Video game cover art has come a long way. We've seen a lot of diversity and innovation in this field, everything from Lara Croft's boobs and muscular gunman to HD Lara Croft's boobs and probably still muscular gunman. We've seen a lot of these too. Okay, jokes aside, there was actually a lot of creative cover art back then when video games first started taking off. Mostly because the art didn't really need to represent anything that actually happened in the game because this is what they had to work with. And I don't know about you, but I wouldn't buy that. So they had to get a bit more imaginative. But there were definitely some cool ass covers back then. Metal Moses, Ostrich Rider, Bad Dudes. I thought that this had to be fake, so I looked it up on YouTube, and it's the most 80s thing I've ever seen, and I love it.
The president has been kidnapped by ninjas. Are you a bad enough dude to rescue the president? I'm bad. Hey dudes, thanks for rescuing me. Let's all go for a burger.
I'm only 20 years old, so I really have no idea about any of these old games. Like, these could all be fake games and I wouldn't even know. I just grabbed these from Google Images. Like, Cosmic Wartoad? First of all, why the hell is he holding a wrench? And then there's this knockoff Slave Leia back there just chilling with a guillotine that's not even over her head. There's no way that somebody made this. It's real. Of course it's real. As video games advanced, the cover art started to look a lot more like what actually happens in the game. From what I can tell, the NES era is when this all started to change. They started to put actual sprites from the game itself on the box, and honestly, I think these are pretty dope. Is that still a word I can use? I don't know, I've been pretty streets behind on the kids' lingo my whole life. There's been a lot of great cover art over the last 20 years. Dead Island, Hyper Light Drifter, Gun, Psychonauts, The Force Unleashed, Nier Automata, Assassin's Creed 3, my favorite Assassin's Creed game, don't judge me. And Dead Space's cover is just an arm floating through space, and it's so ominous and it's fucking great. But for every GTA or Edith Finch out there, there's 10 of the classic guy holding a gun, and who could forget the timeless guy holds a sword? Now, I don't mean to say that some of these covers aren't any good, some of them are badass. Halo 4, Fallout 3, Breath of the Wild, these covers are amazing. But it's just so overdone at this point that unless I already know and like the character, or you've got some really interesting guy holding some really interesting gun, you'd be better off going another direction.
Stay thirsty, my friends.
Nikki Jakey did a video on the death of video game box art a while ago, so I won't get much further in. Oh, fuck. Scott did one too? Why the hell am I even making this? Well, I'll tell you why. I had an idea for a joke that I couldn't make into its own video because it would have been too short and simple, so I figured I could make a video about cover game art and fit it in here. And so here we are, and now I'm in a 110-degree car recording audio because it's the only quiet place. Anyway, I'm gonna keep going. Just frickin' be patient and I'll get to the joke. Recently, more and more games are released that are digital only. Essentially, any PC exclusive or mobile game is going to be digital only, and smaller indie games, even ones on the consoles, find it hard to justify the cost of a physical edition. And since they're not limited to one box art design, this allows much more freedom in the cover design, because it allows multiple covers to be used and they can be changed at any time. But of course, in some cases, this can certainly be a detriment. Take the MMORPG genre. There's a crap ton of MMOs and RPGs and MMORPGs, many of which I'm sure are great. I haven't played many of them, but I've heard good things about a ton of them. But many more aren't any good. But there's a pretty easy way to tell if an MMORPG is going to be any good. The quality of most MMORPGs can be assessed by two main things: how much skin and how much boob. The bigger the boobs and the more skin the cover shows, the worse the game is probably going to be. These kind of games are especially prevalent on mobile. I don't understand why bad MMORPGs still market themselves this way. Like, yes, men are animals, but I think most of us have enough self-respect to not play terrible cash grab games meant to prey on the rich and foolish simply because boobs. Like, the sexualization isn't even alluring. There's a reason Overwatch porn is as popular as it is and not Raid Shadow Legends porn. Ah, fuck you, Rule 34, why'd I have to think of that? But then again, there are literally hundreds of these games, so maybe I've got too much faith in humanity. That's it. That bit about MMORPGs right there was the joke that made me want to make this video. What the fuck am I doing here? I'm so fucking hot. Honestly, over-sexualization isn't even anything new. Like, just look at Golden Axe 1 and 2 for the Mega Drive. As far as good modern games that over-sexualize their characters, there's definitely a few. Overwatch, as previously mentioned, and Metal Gear 5. You can't go much further than that without heading into some, interesting territory. Now, I'm mostly a PC gamer these days. I don't have Wi-Fi at home, so I need to be able to bring my gaming device anywhere to download games. And this is just way more convenient with a laptop than a gigantic Xbox One that needs its own screen. screen. Because I'd rather not be that one guy who was speedrunning Halo in a McDonald's.
My mom's gonna be so proud of me. For finally she's not gonna be pissed that we melted a TV in her oven.
So that basically means I have two choices of where to buy my games. It's a lot easier to find things that I want on Steam. It's partially due to it having a much broader selection. Steam also has a robust tag system and a great UI setup. I can scroll through a bunch of games super quickly and find something that catches my eye. Well, with Epic on the other hand, I rarely find anything that I'd actually want that I don't already have. I essentially only use Epic for the free games it gives out. God damn, it makes every fucking game look amazing. Scrolling through the Epic store just looks and feels so good. Each game is given the screen space it needs to show off its great art, instead of being confined to a tiny corner like it is on Steam. With Steam, you get more info about the game, such as tags, platforms, and review scores, but their art is just so small and the games are so jammed together that it makes it a lot harder to find something that catches your eye. Although I must say, I do really like that they changed to bigger icons in the library tab recently. But I think my biggest gripe with Epic is that they require me to log in every time I restart the program. Again, I'm one of us rare country gamer boys who doesn't have Wi-Fi. I get 15 gigs of hotspot data through Verizon, and damn it, Epic, that shit is precious to me. Don't make me waste it logging into your store. Even though I rarely buy physical editions anymore, there's still something special about a physical copy and actually having the art in your hand. I never play any of my old PS2 or Wii games anymore, but I still like having them around. Well, most of them. I don't know why I still have these ones. Like, The Biggest Loser, this should not have been a thing. Drawn to Life. Could have sworn I threw this one out years ago. Anyway, I think there's 5 main tiers of video game cover art. At the very bottom, you've got those crappy cheap cases and sleeves that GameStop would put games in when they didn't have the original case. You had to be so broke or desperate that you didn't even care about the case. And now, of course, the only thing that I really care about is the case. Some of the cases were just plain with the game name and system slapped on it. Others had this weird artwork of 3 kids playing a game with a cat. I don't know, I've been trying to figure out what's been going on in this photo for 15 years. Is he flipping him off? Where are these kids? Why is the cat grasping the rod like that? We may never know. Next and fourth, we've got the games that if you hadn't heard of them before, you'd have no idea what to expect from the art. I love both these games, but the cover art just doesn't give you any information about them. With the Precursor Legacy, we got some kid with a weasel on his shoulder, a glowing orb, and that's basically it. With Mario Kart Wii, we get 2 guys floating holding wheels. Sure, you can tell it's a racing game, but it doesn't show you any of the actual items or the broad selection of characters. It's not interesting in any way, and it doesn't tell you what kind of game it is. Next up in third, we've got the covers that do just enough to be okay, but nothing more. Cars, The Clone Wars, Monster Jam, if you're familiar with these franchises and the art does enough. Honestly, I think this version of the Minecraft cover is kinda misleading. I think it makes the game come off as more of an action game than a building game, and if somehow somebody hadn't heard of Minecraft before, they could get the wrong impression and be really let down. And these 4, they all show you what the game's about, which is great, but personally, I just don't really like any of these covers. I don't know, there's something just off about them. And coming in second, we've got the games that not only show you what to expect, but they've also got some great art or show some of the best the game has to offer. Basically every single... What the hell? Where did this come from? Basically every LEGO game, the franchise you know and love, but in LEGO. It's extremely simple, but it's also very effective. They show off some of the characters and even throw in some gags. They're great. Also, the Star Wars Battlefront games, they borrow the same layout as the movies. It's elegant and timeless. Wii Party and Nintendo Land, both great games I might add. It's pretty clear that these are just a collection of mini games to mess around with friends in. Smash Bros. 4, it shows a bunch of the characters ready for battle, exactly what the game is, and it just looks great. My Sims, I don't know, I just really like this game. It's so cozy and the cover art just gets that across perfectly. I love it. And then there's the cream of the crop. These game covers are just gorgeous. Captain Toad and Mario Galaxy 2. They show off the world, they set the tone, and they just look really freaking great while they're doing it. And my Switch games. I love the size of the Switch cases. They look absolutely amazing, and they each set the tone for their game perfectly. But what I specifically like about the Switch cases is that they're transparent. And on the inside, they give you just a little bit more. Link climbing a mountain, the Smash Bros. Character roster, and the lyrics to Jump Up Superstar. This is a really small thing, and it doesn't really impact your first impression of the game because you're probably not going to see it until after you've bought it, but it's just the extra little detail they put in that sets these guys apart. But the crowning jewel of my pitiful game collection is Xenoblade Chronicles for the Nintendo Wii. This game was not an easy game to find. I searched every local game store for this game multiple times and I never found it. I eventually convinced my parents to let me buy a sealed copy off of eBay, and this was the first game that I spent a full $60 on. The cover is amazing, and the Wii cases aren't transparent, but if you take the cover out and flip it around, you get an even more beautiful cover. This beauty is going to stay with me for a long time.
And also, the disc actually has a really cool